Here in Britain, we're particularly fortunate because we have a wider variety of motorsport than any other country in the world. Our sport ranges through international race meetings through to club race meetings, international rallies, club rallies, hill climbs, driving tests, grass track racing. In fact, you name it, we've got it. But there is one event that rolls all these forms of sport into one, and that is the Avon Motor Tour of Britain, which starts here in Birmingham.
Richard Lloyd was first off in the big Boss Mustang, flagged away by James Hunt's Formula One patron, Lord Alexander Hesketh.
It's an event where people can associate with what they see in competition with what they drive on the road, which is very important in motorsport if it's going to survive and have some relevance.
It gets two factions of motorsport together, and I love motorsport anyway, and you know, it's fun. I mean, it's nice to meet some other idiots.
Tony Lanfranchi, BMW, and James Hunt in the Daily Express Magnum, prepared by DTV, left the post house at Great Bar soon after 8 o'clock on that sunny Friday morning. James Hunt was one of two Grand Prix drivers in an event which had attracted the cream of single-seater and saloon car stars, plus, of course, the rally aces. Their first test was just 40 miles away from the start at Mallory Park, where the crowds had gathered early for the action. James Hunt was soon flinging the agile Magnum round the tight club circuit, while Ford's Roger Clark and his temporary teammate Jerry Marshall diced with DTV rallymen Will Sparrow and Andrew Carr. The tour was once again for virtually standard showroom family cars, and their performance, handling and reliability would be tested to the limit for 1,000 fiercely competitive miles, including 5 racing circuits and 12 special stages. The driving was nothing if not spectacular, particularly from Roger Platt in the Capri. The tour moved northeast from Mallory via Scofton Special Stage to Lincolnshire's miniature Nürburgring, Cadwell Park. Pre-tour predictions had favoured a winner from the big class, men like Opel's Peter Hansen and Grand Prix star Jody Scheckter. In 1973, James Hunt had won the Tour in a Camaro, but John Fletcher found his Camaro a handful at Cadwell. Tony Lanfranchi was determined to build up a lead over the rallymen on the racing circuit. But for James Hunt, Cadwell Park brought drama and disappointment on a warming-up lap that was too warm for comfort when a water hose worked loose.
Blew a water hose off, evidently, which seemed to have thereby caused some overheating.
With his co-driver, David Benson of the Daily Express, Hunt was out, leaving the action to the Alphas, the BMWs, the Capris and the Dolomites. Now Vauxhall hopes would remain in the capable hands of DTV's Andrew Cullen and Will Sparrow, and privateers like Tim Stock and John Dignam. Once again, the contrast in styles was dramatic, especially in the running duel between Roger Clark and Jerry Marshall, who was on holiday from dealer team Vauxhall.
The idea was that I should show Roger the way around the circuits, and he would theoretically show me the way around the stages, but there's no way I'm going to stay with him on the stages. On the circuits, he's proving very difficult to get by.
I'm quite happy just to keep up with Jerry on the circuits because I know I can beat him on the stages.
His technique is a little different from yours, isn't it? And from anybody else's I've ever seen.
Well, that's by accident, I would think.
He broke my windscreen for me on the last one, but we'll have him back again at Snetterton.
En route to the Norfolk circuit, the tour raced through a stage at the Norwich Showground. At Snetterton, Tony Lanfranchi was one of the first to arrive, and he had something on his mind.
Places which will please you around the corner of the caravan.
I mean, that was all wrong.
What was all wrong?
Really good.
No, after Mallory was. It's all gone wrong. I don't understand it.
No, they can't. You've done it wrong. I know how you've done it wrong. You've given him 20 laps or something. We did 21 laps, so we must be good.
Have a look round the corner. Do you want some fuel?
No,
Plenty over there if you want.
silly old after thing on it.
Journalist Ian Young was sharing the Capri with Jodie
The last
Scheckter.
stage was enjoyable. It was quite good, actually. The best part of the rally so far, I think.
Familiar rally world faces of Adrian Boyd and Tony Fall were also early arrivals for the night racing.
We got 30 strong. We were around the station with engine dead and around and I spun again, setting off. Only two.
You're not used to these big, powerful machines, you see. That's the trouble.
Not used to Mickey Mouse stages.
Dolomite teammates Brian Culchith and Tony Drom.
Well, we've had a little bonfire under the bonnet on the second stage at Scotland. Apart from that, no dramas.
Anything worth mentioning? Well, if Henry would stop laughing on the special stages, it'd be a lot easier.
Once again, the tour brought the magic of Le Mans to British racing. Blazing headlights, illuminated pit signals, high-speed shadows, and tension you could almost taste. There was night rallying, too, at Nebworth, before the sun and the weary crews arrived at Ingestre, near Stafford, early on Saturday morning. Clark and Marshall, surprisingly closely matched on the rallyman's terrain. Andrew Cowan in the Magnum showed a marathon man's confidence after a night's driving without sleep, one thing few racing drivers are used to. Will Sparrow raised both the dust and the cheers. Clive Baker caused raised eyebrows. The Formula 5000 driver was unhurt, though his escort's body had been severely modified. He limped on to Alton Park, where another escort driver, Roger Clark, had his problems too. Valve gear trouble dropped him from second to fourth place. A Hercules captain, John Dignam, had had a heavy landing in his Magnum.
I tried a little too hard at the last circuit and we're bending it back again, but there's no mechanical problems.
Will Sparrow's new car was loosening up.
It's going jolly well. I think it wants a bit more running in, and it's getting it at the moment. So by the end of the rally, it'll be going very, very well.
From Alton, the cars motored down the M6 via Long Marston to Castle Combe, where there was a festive flavour. Avon had provided all the fare for a family day out, with vehicles of every shape and size to suit every taste. Here at Castle Combe, the Clark versus Marshall tandem was once more defying the laws of adhesion and convention.
Could you describe your technique on a racetrack for us?
Not really. I shouldn't think anybody could.
You've watched it, of course, than anyone else, Jerry. What do you think of Roger's technique on a racetrack?
It's incredible that he can drive so badly and get away with it. You know, the lines are so dreadful, and his ability is such that he can get away with it all the time. Incredible to relate.
Roger?
Well, we, in rallying, of course, are taught to drive on strange roads that we don't know. And so obviously we have to learn a different way of driving. It's just as quick though, and a lot safer.
What about the special stages so far, Tony?
Well, I spun at one, which was very silly of me. And nothing to do with rally or race, it's just that I lost it. And otherwise, you know, I'm a bit slower than Roger. But it's a very big Grand Touring car.
You're touring the Grand Manor.
Yeah, it's a beautiful motor car, you know.
If you had to put your money on a winner now, is it going to be a racing driver or a rally driver?
Oh, a rally driver, I think. There's too much to come at Effint. I mean, Roger knows these places like the back of his hand, and more rally drivers know the places very, very well. And I won't go quick until I know where I'm going.
So Tony Lanfranchi was battling to add to his lead over Roger Clark and the rallyists on this last racing section of the tour. John Handley, lying fourth, was feeling the effects of his all-night stint.
What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to put my head in a bowl of water. Wake myself up.
John, as you know, everyone's saying this is rally drivers versus racing drivers. How do you think it's going to go in the end?
Well, I think tomorrow could change the thing dramatically. With possibly people like Will Sparrow, who don't seem to be in the running at the moment, could take 2 or 3 minutes off other people at Effint and come right up to the front.
So what are your tactics on the racetracks?
Well, I'm trying to build up as much as I can on the racetracks over these rally boys, because all I can hope to do tomorrow is defend my tail.
Vauxhall's Group 1 rally star Will Sparrow was eagerly awaiting the special stages, but he had some reservations.
What do you think is going to happen now?
Well, I would dearly love to see a few Forestry Commission roads used, because I think that would really sort out the men from the boys. Maybe make it a 50-50 mixture would really make it a rally and a race together. I think that would be worthwhile.
How much of a strain is this event putting on the ordinary family car like the one that I could buy?
Well, I think what amazes me really is that the way we throw these cars about and the speeds that we approach and go into corners. I don't know why the wheels don't fly off and the suspensions collapse. You know, it's amazing really what they do stand up there.
Andrew Kahn was right. They had to stand up to some very unorthodox treatment indeed, as the two corner-cutting rally aces hammered round ahead of the field in a fast-moving farewell to the racing circuits.
Now, Bill is fourth, but no evidence closure up in fifth. Sixth is Rocco Brooks, and seventh is Mike Smith. At 8 is Stuart McCutcheon. Stuart McCutcheon is 8th position. So, we're going to allow the time. Rocco Brooks is just ahead, and there goes the leader over the line to complete 10 laps.
Now the tour moved out of the world of motor racing into the stately grounds of Boddington, a key stage in the 1973 event. And there was an eager crowd waiting to see if the notorious grassy patch would embarrass as many drivers as during the first Avon tour.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
They weren't to be disappointed. Stuart McCrudden. Gordon Spice. Tony Lanfranchi, one of the few to get through cleanly. Adrian Boyd. Roger Platt, spectacular, but losing little time. Martin Carroll. John Heppenstall. Chris Watham. Tony Dron kept his cool, and the Dolomite went through. Stuart Brown, Scottish autocross champion. John Dooley. Bill Oliver. Brian Marshall. Roger Clark made no embarrassing mistakes. Neither did DTV man Andrew Cullen. Will Sparrow's Magnum was really sure-footed. Top rallyist Nigel Rockey spun, and so did disc jockey Noel Edmonds at 45 RPM. But John Dignam, the RAF rally champion, steered a straight course. The thrills were over for the night. The crews would rest at Bristol before returning to Boddington on Sunday morning, en route for Eastnor Castle near Ledbury. None of the rallymen would come into their own, as the only grid in sight was a cattle grid. Roger Clark was really turning on the pressure, and on this stage he squeezed into the lead by just 1 second from Lanfranchi. Andrew Cullen was equally at home, and quickly began to promote his Magnum into the top 10. Will Sparrow was also beginning to fight his way onto the leaderboard. But the section most of the racing drivers really feared was Epient, the bleak, barren but tortuous army roads threading their way across the Brecon beacons. Tony Lanfranchi was doing well, despite his fears. Peter Hansen rolled, cracked his screen, but carried on. Roger Platt was again spectacular, but not as spectacular as fellow Capri driver Martin Carroll. Amazingly, both Carroll and his co-driver Ken Holmes were unhurt, and the marshalling was first class.
We came round and the back end got a little wide over there, as you can see, and rather than drop down that side, I tried to steer it over this side and overcooked it a little bit, and we went over 2 or 3 times or something of that nature, to which we were dragged out by the marshals here. That's about all I can tell you.
It's your own car, is it?
Yeah, it's my own car, yeah.
How'd you feel about it?
A little bit sad at the loss of it, but a new body shall soon put it right, and you know, we'll stick to motor racing as opposed
More
to...
disappointed at the fact that we won't finish the rally.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? That you won't finish is
Well,
really
yeah.
the blow more than anything.
We decided this morning, you know, with our position, we'd, you know, just conserve the car as much as we could and just finish the rally.
Yeah.
That was this morning.
But since then, we've well and truly finished, unfortunately.
Another driver whose tour was over was Noel Edmonds, but fortunately he suffered little damage. Andrew Cohen was in his element. Will Sparrow was third fastest on this infamous Epint 3 stage. The mixture of racing and rally stars had not only proved potent and an obvious crowd pleaser, but had revived the old sporting qualities. Why did Peter Browning, clerk of the course, think this had happened?
Because I think we've been able to take a new formula and give it a relaxed feeling. If you go to a motor race today, particularly the international motor racing, the schedule is such with the practicing and the event itself that drivers and marshals and spectators cannot mix and mingle together. Last night at Bristol, we were able to sit down together with the stewards of the meeting, a leading driver, the organisers, a spectator and a marshal, and we're all able to discuss our common problems in motorsport and get together and talk to meet each other. You cannot do this at the British Grand Prix next weekend. No way. There are going to be people jetting in and out in helicopters, all doing their own little thing in a segment. Individually they talk together, but this event, and rallying in particular, but this event, we tried to bring people together and create a relaxed atmosphere. And where would you have a Grand Prix driver competing with a clubman? And a humble marshal, over 2,000 marshals, voluntary officials on this event, have actually had an opportunity to speak to their Grand Prix star, speak to him through the window of the car. You could never get that close to him at Brands Hatch next week.
But the tour wasn't over yet. There was a sting in the tail at Lowton Park, Shropshire's popular hill climb. Chris Knowles-Fitton was eager to get home. Adrian Boyd finished 6th. Roger Platt was still spectacular. John Handley was fourth. Tony Dron finished fifth. The Magnum had gone splendidly, and Cowan was now seventh. Will Sparrow followed Cowan home into 8th place, while other competitors had problems. Russell Brooks spun his top 10 chances away. John Dignan was still going strongly, but there were troubles ahead for some of the others. And so the survivors arrived on Sunday evening at the finish in Birmingham. Alan Mussard had his escort on a trailer.
Well, we just went a bit sideways, the back wheels came off onto the grass, and there was one rhododendron bush there that caught the back of the car and pulled the front in, and one big tree that we implanted the car on. And that was it, bang. One minute we were doing 50 mile an hour, next minute we were stationary.
There were no such dramas for Roger Clark and Jerry Marshall, as James Hunt performed the honours for the man who had succeeded him as Avon champion.
Bloody racing drivers do this. Bloody good.
It's a very fine fella. I'm most impressed playing all those racing drivers. Oh, it's not. There you go. Well, shall I open it? It's the only pleasure I'm going to get out of this. Right, go on, fire it away. We'll up over everybody. Hang on. Cheers.
All right, Joe, you've restored the self-respect. You've restored the self-respect of rally drivers.
Yes.
What was it like today?
It's been very enjoyable, thank you.
What about Jerry's performance?
He's obviously doing very, very well.
And what are you going to do tonight, the two of you?
Well, I'll give you a clue.
Andrew Cowan finished only 4 minutes behind Clark in the Pringles Magnum.
How hard a test has it been for the family car?
Well, it's been a hard test. I couldn't believe that the car could stand up to so much, especially the revving I've been giving it on the circuit. I don't know how it stood up.
Will Sparrow was only 10 seconds behind his DTV teammate and was very happy indeed with his car's performance.
It's just run in now, actually. I think it's beautiful. Ready for the next one.
There's one to buy.
Well, I've got to buy it. Okay.
So another tour was over, an event which had not only proved the reliability of the modern family car, but also that motorsport can still be fun.
I basically hope that this event will continue in very much the format that it is. We don't need the professionalism, we need the sport aspect of it, which is, I think, the reason that the stars are attractive. It's a fun event, it's been fun this time, and I hope it will continue in the future.